لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. The purpose of a family, a healthy family, is the one who has comfort. We're supposed to provide some level of comfort. That when people come to the family, they cannot be constantly in the state of anxiety, struggle, tension. You're supposed to use family as a detox center. That if there is a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, when you go to the family, you're able to deal with it. It doesn't mean you will never be upset. It doesn't mean you don't cry, because sometimes crying in itself is a process of detox. But you feel comfortable enough to talk about your problems to your family. That's the right family. That the wife and husband, they understand each other's problem. That was number 2. That family is supposed to provide comfort. Not constant comfort, not to forget about the mistakes and all that, no. To understand that this is not a court every day. Our job is not to make this place a court on constantly. It's more than that. Number 3, mawadda. The third characteristic of a family was mawadda, compassion. That although you have to provide comfort, you have to be logical, you have to... We talked about this last night. So if you were not with us, it seems a bit rushed, but we talked about this last night, so it's just a quick summary. That we need to treat family a bit different from a corporation. Because in a corporation, you try to have a set of rules to be followed, right? You set all the instruction that has to be followed. But in a family, you need all those rules and you need compassion. And I define compassion as that if somebody in your family push you back, you still try to go and help them. In your corporation, that's not like that, right? If somebody doesn't want to be a team player, doesn't want to help in your business, after a while you excuse them. Go find another place that you feel better there. But in family, that's not the case. Oh, you don't like it? Go. It doesn't work that way. That's the reason divorce is أبغض الحلال عند الله. Getting divorced is the most disliked halal that Allah made. It's halal to get divorced if it's necessary. But at the same time is abghad. Allah doesn't like it. It means don't use it as a first option. That's a last resort. Try, use compassion, use all it possible to fix it, to fix it, to fix it. Don't use it like a corporation. You're fired. I don't like you anymore. It's a family. It's a holy union. You have to try to keep it together as long as it's possible. But if it doesn't, even compassion doesn't work, then is the last resort. You use it as a halal escape, getaway in order to save yourself and your life. But for some people, it's just, they get a job, they don't like it, they switch to another one. They think wife and husband is like that. I don't like this, I'm going to switch. And this is a personal decision, by the way. It's a personal decision. When somebody gets a divorce, it's not my job or your job to say, oh, they got a divorce because they didn't have patience enough. Because we didn't live with that person. And Allah didn't ask me to be that judgmental and that judge to make that ruling. Somebody got a divorce, may Allah inshallah help them. They already got the divorce, it's too late, your opinion doesn't matter anyway. To say, oh, they got a divorce because they were not patient, or they got a divorce because they wanted to find somebody, that's an tuhma, that's an accusation. And we have to stay away from that. We didn't live, we don't know, and nobody gave us any evidence. And it's not our job to make that judgment either. It's a thin line between Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar and sometimes what we could call tajassus. Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar, you see somebody make a mistake, you advise them. You tell them about the right. When you see somebody is destroying themselves, they're committing wrong and sin, you try to advise them, warn them. That's what Amr bil Ma'ruf Nahy Anil Munkar is. And we have, if that is helpful, you think that could be effective, you'd use it. You say it. But if you're certain that if you say it, they're not going to listen. I'm going to say it, but I'm 100% sure based on experience or based on I watched somebody else trying, I'm 100% sure they're not going to listen. Then is nothing on me. I don't do Amr bil Ma'ruf because it's not helpful. It's not effective. Tajassus is that nobody asked my opinion. I don't even know if they did it or not. I heard some rumors and I tried to give opinion about everything. That's no Amr bil Ma'ruf. That's no Nahy anil Munkar. That's judgment. And we have a story that somebody came to a scholar in a masjid and said, you know, this masjid is a waste of time. So what do you mean? He said, I'm not going to come to masjid anymore. So why? So you know, you go to the masjid, you see in a corner somebody's using their phone, playing with their phone. In another corner somebody's talking. In another corner somebody's doing gossip, ghaibat. In another corner somebody's falling asleep. In another corner everybody's just doing something wrong. What's the point of coming to the masjid? And the Shaykh said, yeah, you're right. But if you don't want to come tomorrow, do something for me. Tell me the result first, and then after that, do what you want. So what should I do? He said, tomorrow come, and as you come, please have 2 cups of water, filled with water. I don't know if it's based on a true story. It could be a symbolical story. So he said, fill these 2 cups of water, and then make sure they don't have any space. You basically fill it fully, and then walk with them in the masjid and go around the masjid and then go outside without a drop of water basically, you know, spilled from the cup. So why? So do this. I'll tell you why. And the next day she did. She got 2 cups of water filled with water, walking around the room, and then left. And then the person asked her, said, okay, thank you first for doing it, but tell me how many people were on their phone when you went inside the masjid? I said, I don't know. So why? So I was careful about the water to not being spilled. How many people were asleep? I don't know. How many people were, you know, doing ghibah and gossip? I don't know. Said you were focused so much on a cup of water and you were able to focus enough to don't see all these distractions. And if you would focus that much on yourself and Allah, you would not have time to look around and judge people. You're in the masjid to look at yourself. You're there for repentance, inshallah. You're there for self-building. You're there to make yourself a better person. You're there to do taqwa. Remember Allah, focus on Him. But that's not easy. That's the meaning of taqwa. And divorce is not our job. Why they divorce? And I know some men are, mashallah, gossipy too. It's not just that they used to make this stereotype that, oh, it's not men, they don't care about rumors. No, unfortunately, some of them are more interested in rumors than, you know, probably somebody that you consider children or teenagers who care about gossips, right? They're 34 years old. Oh, what happened to that person's son or son-in-law? And I know that one day we were in a gathering, and I've heard this so many times that they tell me, and it is not a judgment. It's not my judgment. So you talk about judgment, you're judging people. This is not about judgment. It's my responsibility to see what's happening to the community that I'm supposed to talk about their problems. And it's because of that I have to talk about the problem. That people say, you know, Shaykh, you say don't talk about this and that and that. And what should we do? We go and we sit somewhere and we have to watch ourselves. You know, we look at each other's face and there's nothing to say. And I believe them. Because for years we used to make our conversation on that. It's like when you sit with, you know, 15 and 16 and 17 years old, most of the things they talk about, you will be interested. What they talk about, do you think? Teenagers, what they talk about? You don't know, no? I sit with them and I kind of have an idea. There's never one topic. Their mind is all over the place. All over the place. For a second, they talk about, for example, video games. 2 minutes later, they're talking about Trump. 5 minutes later, they're talking about what happened to the kid, you know, in the for example, a football field. 10 minutes later, oh, homework is too much. It's all over the place. But adults usually, when they sit with each other, depend on the culture, is usually the most interesting topic is always, what did I read on WhatsApp? That's number one, right? The cure to everything is garlic. Have garlic, you'll be cured. That's one thing. Every WhatsApp person knows that. Or on Facebook, you saw a video or clip. Politics. And after we've finished all those topics, there's nothing else to talk about. Okay, that family, that son-in-law, that daughter-in-law, that marriage, that divorce, we now try to dissect the problem to see the cause. Allah said, before divorce, your job is to be hakam. Hakaman min ahli wa hakaman min ahli. Get one representative from the husband, one from the wife. Try to fix the problem. Once they divorce, there is no hakam. Move on. It's too late. It's their divorce. If they were able to fix it, you should have done it ahead of time. So compassion. That was the third. Mawaddah. That don't treat it like a business. Marriage is more than business. And I've seen people say, Shaykh, he has to pay for my nafaqah. And I said, I know that's his job as a husband to pay for the expenses of the family. But you see the problem that he's going through. Compassion. If it's necessary to have compassion, compassion. Yes, if he's somebody who's, God forbid, have the money and don't give you, that's another story. But if you see he just lost his job, he's laid off, you put in extra pressure on him and he's looking for a job and you see him looking for a job, compassion. Don't treat it like, oh, that's his responsibility. The same way a wife who has the responsibility of her, when the husband sees that she's sick, she cannot do something. Your responsibility is the same thing, to understand, compassion. We have our ulama was teaching Dars Kharaj. In Iran, they do lottery for Hajj because there's so many applicants to go to pilgrimage and for Hajj. Once in a lifetime, your name comes out and you have a chance to go. So this alim, his name came, right? His name was drafted from the lottery to go to Hajj. It's not really a lottery. It's more based on, I think, when you sign up and all that. But certain number of people every year can go. So when his name came, I said, okay, Sheikh, your name is there. And he said, no, I will give my turn to somebody else. I said, why? It's once in a life opportunity. God knows when you will get it back. He said, no, I'm going to give it. I said, why? I said, my wife is sick and I'm nursing her. I said, Sheikh, we will find somebody else to take care of her. Don't worry, we send our wife. The student said, our wives are going to go and take care of her and help her. I said, no. I know how to do it right. And she probably will be embarrassed to ask them. She will not feel comfortable. And then he finished with saying that the thawab I will earn from taking care of her is much, much more than any pilgrimage that I can perform. When Rasulullah said, when you give a cup of water to your husband, that cup of water's thawab is equivalent of performing one hajj. One hajj umrah is when you give it, because Islamically, the wife's responsibility is not to do any house chore. It's not her responsibility to do any house chore. But when she does, it's a value for it. Compassion. But the moment you treat it like business, oh, it's your job to do this. Even children learn that. And who they learn it from? Sometimes from the family. And that's the sad part. Sometimes they learn it outside. And you should be careful. So, oh, your dad, the dad or the mom said, I'm doing this for you. I'm cleaning your room and this. And I'm telling you, your children getting older, teach them they should do it themselves. They should pick up after themselves. But for whatever compassion and kindness you do, and when you tell them, I've heard children said, it's your job. It's your job. And the same thing, dad works. And I've heard people, not 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 11. No, 20 years old. 20 years old who live with their family, 18 years old who live with their family. They say to their dad, it's your job to take care of me. It's your job to pay for the expenses. It's your job to pay for my college. Why? Where in Islam Allah said it's their job to pay for the expenses of you? But something that's being learned when the wife said, oh, it's your responsibility to pay, or it's your responsibility to clean the house, it's your responsibility, and make it a business. There's no compassion. And number 4, warahmah, mercy. Compassion is that you love, either love to do something. Mercy is that you actively, in your action, you help. You feel bad, that's one thing, that's mawaddah. You feel bad and you pick up some of the slack of some of the responsibility and you do it yourself. You wake up in the morning, you see that your wife is sick and you make the, you wash the dishes. That's rahmah. It's not her responsibility to wash the dishes to begin with, but you see it and you do it. That was the 4. Number 5, a healthy family. Quran in Surah Baqarah, Allah talks about this. أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ رَفَثٌ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. Number 5 quality for a Qurani family is that you have to recognize the need of your family based on the situation. You have that basira, that insight to recognize what is the right reaction and when. So we talk about compassion, we talk about mercy, we talk about other 4 quality. Number 5 is that basira, that vision, that insight to recognize what is the right approach now. When I should be strict with my child, when I should be lenient with my child. That requires basira, experience. What are the matters that I have to put my foot on the ground? Nope. When is something that I can be more easygoing and a bit more flexible on that? That requires basira and insight. The Quran's how it says that, husband and wife, they are garments for one another. They're libas for each other. Because libas, you don't wear the same libas all the time. You don't wear it in the same season. Every season there's a different libas. So your husband and wife, you have that flexibility to recognize based on what circumstance, what situation, what kind of protection, what kind of best performance you need to do. That's the libas. A libas is a beauty. It's not just for protection. Sometimes it makes it beautiful. Your job in your family is to not go around and bash your husband and I have the worst husband. To go around and talk to your family and say I have the worst wife. Your job is to be the beauty for your family. Libas, that's the job of a libas, right? You wear a libas for her, you look good. So you as a wife or you as a husband, as a family member, is to make your family look good. I'm not, God forbid, saying if you're being abused physically, hide it, don't talk about it. No, no, no. That's a different concept. That's harm and you have to talk about it. And in Islam, it's not permissible to harm others or let yourself to be harmed. But I'm talking about small things. Every person has flaws. Nobody's perfect, right? Oh, my husband, I cannot sleep next to him at night. He snores too loud, How is that something that he can... It's not in his control. And it's disastrous that sometimes in families, as I said, there's so much negative we say. And God protect us from the evil eye as well, right? I know people who say not even the truth or exaggerate about the, pitfalls and the, some flaws of the family. They exaggerate about them. Why? People's eyes are behind us. They're looking at us. They already think we're too happy. And in order to distract people from our family, let's say a couple of exaggerated lies in order to keep ourselves from evil eye. And this is, I did not know, by the way, this is thanks to the last few years of experience. I did not even know this exists. How I know about this? And in-laws. In-laws. They said, and it was interesting that the in-laws usually in the stereotypical, regardless of what culture you live, There's always in-laws consider, what they consider? What? The enemy, right? The opposition, the other side, right? And monster-in-law, they don't call mother-in-law, right? That's the stereotypical mentality. In Islam, Allah said your father-in-law, your mother-in-law, your second parents. They're mahram to you the same way your parents are mahram to you. They're your second parents, right? That's Islam's approach. Culture or mentality is different. So imagine that even with that culture, the poor in-laws came to me and said, you know, our son-in-law is very good, but his mother say things, horrible things about him. We don't know which one to believe. Imagine. The mother, I look at my son as good, family is okay, wife is okay, but the mother is saying things which is not true about her own son. And Islam says, believe the person you see. So if the person you see is good, forget whoever said whatever. Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, we have an example. Somebody came, a companion to Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, and said, I know a lot of trusted people that I have. There's a brother I have. I have a brother. And the people that I consider them trustworthy, they say that he is so on and so forth. He's bad. But when I asked him, my brother said no. He doesn't confess. He said it's not true. What should I do? Imam Kadhim alayhi salam said, believe your brother and ignore all others. That's your job. If he said he didn't do it, don't take it the other's word. But he said, I trust them. Said, doesn't matter. This is a person that you talk about. And you didn't see it yourself. Ignore all this. You're not in a court. It's not a matter of judgment. It's a matter of, respecting and connection. Ignore others. Maybe when you ask him, he thinks about his action, maybe he changes his mind. So I said, ignore it. But I knew the mother of that person. So one day she came to ask a question. I think it was about ahkam. And I said, okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to, interfere with your life and all that, but I wanted to say that this is a problem, and if it's your permission, I'm going to ask this regarding your son. And she said, yeah, go ahead. I said, okay, this is what happened, that I've heard that you say things about your son which people say he's not like that. Is that why you, even if you know about your son and his private, Allah is Sattar al-Uyub, He conceals the mistakes and our sins and our flaws. Do the same thing, even if you as a mother know. Don't say it, people don't know about it, and they're not sins involving you. And this is, this is the shocking part. That was the first time I heard. Said, yeah, Shaykh, I know my son is a very good son. Said, okay, so why? Why you're saying those things about him? And she said it. Said, because I know my son is so good that I'm afraid that he's being harmed from the evil eye of people. I'm making these lies about him in order to distract people from admiring him so much. I did not know that is a thing. Second time was when somebody actually took away their child from masjid. A child who was very good reading Quran, read how to read Quran in America, was born in America, very religious, coming to Dua Tawassul, Dua Kumail, participating, reading articles, helping, and they pulled them out. And I asked why. And I've said this before on the minbar, I think I said it in another occasion. And the mom said, because I heard that if your child is too good, Allah will take him away from you and he will die soon. That he has to have some problems too. He has to commit some sins to balance it in order for shaitan to let him live. I don't know. But these are real life examples that I'm amazed by people's ideologies. And they actually do things about it. Oh, it's not good to be too religious. Not good to be too religious. And then that was a Farsi poem. They recited a Farsi poem, right? Golchin Ruzegar Ajab Khosh Saligaz. It's a poetry that says When somebody dies, they put that on their funeral announcement that, you know, that the destiny has a very, very good, what is the word, you know, a very good opinion or a very good selection. That between all people, this destiny or death chooses the people who are the best of the best. So the point of that poetry is to admire the person who passed away, that he or she was the best of the best, right? But people take that for serious, that, you know, it's dangerous to be too good. And Ayatollah Safi, may Allah inshallah bless him and extend his life, he's in 103 now. And many of our other ulama, they live long lives. So God forbid the death mistaking them or they didn't know that they're too good. And do you have any tradition or any hadith or any ayah of Quran that approves this idea? No, but we do what we care. So our responsibility is to be libas. Don't say negative things about our family. If you know flaws that are very personal, very private, as I said, there's nothing to do, God forbid, with you being harmed. It's not that you talk to a therapist, you're talking to a counselor. It's not those cases. You're just walking around and you're bashing your family. Be aware of that. Right? Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahun. Inshallah, I finish with hadith. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sallallahu. Another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. That was 5 points. Find the right mate, right spouse. It's important to provide comfort inside the family. It's important to have compassion. It's important to have mercy. And it is important to have basira, to have insight, to recognize the right need of your family. Sometimes your child needs you to be there for them. Sometimes you need to let them stand on their own feet. And one thing that is also, I want to inshallah finish with that. That will be at least 5 to 7 minutes hadith to cover, because usually when I say the last thing I'm going to say, people consider it to be 1 minute or 2 minutes, but this will take 5 minutes. But inshallah, with that I will wrap up the topic. So these are the 5 that we have to. But there's another 5 that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that a mu'min will not have these 5. And a mu'min family will not have these 5. So 5 we must have, 5 we should stay away from. And if the imbalance happens, that instead of implementing those we have to implement, we start using these other 5 elements that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is saying, we will get a reverse result. And that family that's supposed to be a place of comfort and place of taqwa and a place of peace and harmony, it will transform to a place that everybody's fighting over power and over dominance and over achieving what they want and becoming tyrannical about their own place in that family. That could happen. So what are the 5? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, this is a hadith, خمسة لا تكن في المؤمن. 5 you cannot find, 5 characteristics you cannot find in a mu'min. Number 1, al-usr, difficulty. A mu'min is not a difficult person. Usr, إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, or سَيَجْعَلُ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, is that difficulty means that some people are difficult to deal with, to live with. A mu'min is not a difficult person. And doesn't make it difficult for others either. What do we mean by difficult? Let's say some people are difficult to cook for. They're so picky. We have hadith that a difference between a mu'min and a munafiq, Prophet said that al-mu'min ya'kul bishahwati ahli wal-munafiq ya'kul ahlahu bishahwati. A hypocrite's family, they eat based on whatever the hypocrites desire. A mu'min eats whatever his or her family wants. That's a difficult person. Oh, just cook what I want. I understand, again, I have to make exception because people always, when you say something, there's always make a comment, but what about those people who have dietary restrictions, there are allergies? I'm not talking about them. They have allergies, I cannot, that's the way we're created with. That's not their choice. Difficult people that they choose to be difficult. They're difficult to talk to, they're difficult to forgive. We have an example that a woman, that her name was, her role was that she used to bring perfumes to Prophet and sell. It's like attar. This woman, we have a narration, a hadith about that Prophet gave a long hadith to her after an incident. And the incident was that she was with her husband before going to Prophet, and somehow she disrespected her husband. And her husband got upset. And when she left the house for a second before going to the house of the Prophet, she remembered that Prophet mentioned that the jihad of the wife is to take care of her family and her husband well. So she said, I'm going to Prophet of God and I'm going to undermine his teaching. So she returned. And she went to her husband and apologized, said, I was wrong. You were right and it was my mistake. Imagine that, right? Imagine that day come, that the husband goes and said, I'm sorry, it was my fault, and or the wife said, it was my fault. It's that, because there were something being taught by parents, don't apologize to your spouse. If once you do it, they learn and they expect you to apologize all the time. I've heard people say it. But she did, and the husband didn't accept, ignored her. So he was going to masjid, so he accompanied her, and on the way back she tried to once again approach him and fix the problem. He didn't accept. So they went to the house. She tried again, cooked food, prepared everything, and he ignored again. So next day he went to Rasulullah's house, and she said the problem to Salama, the Rasulullah's wife. And Prophet told her to tell your husband that when a husband accepts the excuse of his family, of his wife, Allah will ask angels to devour him, to hug him. That's the reward of it. Remind him of that. And she did. And he accepted, and alhamdulillah, everything was fixed. But at the end of that advice, Prophet gave a tradition, which inshallah in another time we can talk about. But sometimes people are difficult even to accept apologies. That person made a mistake, whatever was that mistake, I don't know. They said something, they were upset or angry, and it's something forgivable. It is something forgivable. So Muslims should not be difficult. That's one. And family don't have difficult. It's difficult to talk to. It's difficult to forgive. It's difficult to cook. It's difficult to sleep. It's sometimes people want to sleep, but others are awake. Nope. Turn off everything. Shut down the entire project. I'm going to sleep. I'm a sensitive sleeper. But it's 8 at night, and it's, the next day they have no school. Maybe they need 1 or 2 hours. Nope. That's being difficult. Number 2, Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Al-Lajaja. A mu'min doesn't have lajaja, which is stubbornness. Looking for excuse. One is to be difficult, one is to create problems. Lajaja. And we have so many examples of lajaja. That people are stubborn. It's their way or no way. And how many times we have that with our children, we become stubborn. With our children, with our own children. And Imam alayhi salam said, Lajaja leads your children to leave you, to become more misguided. Extreme shamatat. Shamatat refers to criticism, a lot of criticism. Oh, you're good for nothing, you're a loser, you do this, and just saying it over and over and over. It causes more harm, no benefit. Lajaja, number 2. Number 3, Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, wal kidhb, lying. How many times I can say divorce happened because of lies? That a wife lied or husband lied. Distrust. That's the third thing you cannot find. And you should stay away from if you want your family. Don't even lie to your children. Prophet said, don't lie to your child that I will bring you gift that you're not planning to buy for them. Get a good grade, I'm going to buy you this. If you're not planning, don't give them false promise. Don't lie. Because when you break the image that they have of you, they will not trust you again that easily. Truth. But again, just understand the concept of truth. Sometimes your child is very young, they just lost a grandmother. You don't want to just go and tell that your grandmother. Understand that how to say something, that doesn't mean lying. And because not every person have the same capacity. Some people are insensitive. Your wife just lost her mom, or your husband just lost his dad, and you go and say, oh, they're dead. I'm saying the truth, I'm a truthful person. Having that understanding, going back to basira, how to approach it. Don't lie, but understand how to approach, how to say the truth as well. That's number 3. Wal kidh. Number 4, Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, wal baghi. A mu'min doesn't have baghi, oppression, oppressing others, undermining people's right. Imagine a family who's no dhulm. You don't oppress your wife's right, you don't oppress your husband's right, you don't oppress anyone's right. A mu'min will not commit baghi. Say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Usually when it comes to the list of the numbers, it's a bit harder to regain and recall it. And the last one, Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, wal hasada. Jealousy. Sometimes we're jealous of our own family. We're jealous of them for some reason. And these 5 that Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, a mu'min won't have these. It means that the true iman cannot be settled in a heart who has these 5. That's a true iman, cannot happen. Sure. Baghi and oppression, it refers to when we recognize that something belongs to someone else. It could be their respect, it could be their honor, it could be their property, and you undermine it. Is another form of dhulm, is another form of oppression, baghi. And a mu'min doesn't commit baghi because they recognize that there are boundaries, there are lines that we have to respect. When we don't let somebody, for example, see their mom, that's baghi. Oh, you cannot talk to your mom. For whatever reason, that's the form of baghi. Even when it comes to another simple rights that somebody could have. So that's total of 10. And this is inshallah a beginning for you to add on to this list, because having a healthy family, a Qur'ani family, is not 1 or 2 things or 10 things or 20 things. It's about so many numbers to be added, but if you start with implementing at least some of these, you will see the result. I promise you will see the result. Why? Because Allah said, Inna Allah la yukhliful. He made a promise that if you follow my command, my teaching, you'll see the result. And based on that, I'm telling you, if we try, inshallah, looking at the 5 we have to keep and 5 we have to stay away from, inshallah, we will be able to see the result. Don't be a perfectionist either. It's more than 7 minutes that I said. Don't be a perfectionist. Don't look for a family who has no problem. Everything exactly the way I want. That's going to lajaja. We're stubborn that we don't accept the reality. In the real life, not everything goes as planned. Not everything is the way that we want. But trying to do what is best, trying to do what is right, inshallah will help us, and inshallah help our family to find inshallah the right path, to find guidance, to find inshallah salvation, reformation, after, even if God forbid they took a wrong path, after they took a wrong turn in their life. May Allah give us the tawfiq to learn from the message of Allah, to learn from the message of the Prophet and his family, especially to look at the life of Fatima Zahra as an example, as a role model that could be relevant to our lives, could be relevant even for us that we live in the time of 2019 and live in America and live in this society. It still is relevant if we understand that these are the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them Ahlul Bayt. Innama yuridullah liyudhhib ankum ar-rijsa Ahlul Bayt, that they were not involved with any form of pollution, impurities that usually other peoples deal with. So this is a perfect example and model to have in life. May Allah give us that tawfiq. And alhamdulillah, they recited Musiba, and I finish inshallah with the dua and salam to Hazrat Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. And the tragedy of her life should be a reason for us to look at her life. I said, every imam or every infallible, when we recite their Musiba, the tragedy of their lives, the question is, okay, we have to, that shedding tears was narrated as a way of following the Ahlul Bayt. يَحْزَنُونَ لِحُزْنِنَا, right? Be sad and have sorrow with our grief and sorrow. But at the same time, the loss of that life means what they were doing was ended before the time that was meant to be. That was not the time for Fatima Zahra to be 18 years old and leave this dunya. So ask ourselves that what we lost, who she was, and why her loss was a great tragedy for the Muslim Ummah. And when we look at it that way, inshallah, we will be able to gain more taqarrub and more closeness to Allah through her character and personality. May Allah give us the tawfiq of the ziyarah of Madinatul Nabi. And again, once again, I was reading about this news of they claim that it was a mental person with mental disorder who decapitated and beheaded a child in Medina. But I pray to Allah, whoever is responsible for preaching hatred against the Shia of Ahlul Bayt, to be punished for that preach. Whoever is encouraging this horrific, barbaric practice of beheading innocent people, may Allah inshallah punish them in dunya and akhirah. And inshallah give patience to the mother of that child who witnessed this horrific incident. And may Allah give us to visit Madinatul Nabi. And one day, without the presence of these hate preachers and warmongers who all they care for is to support a tyrannical family and claim that they believe in God and believe in the message of the Prophet. May Allah help us to see that day and be alive to see the end of that oppression and tyranny in the land of Mecca and Medina, inshallah. Assalamu alayki ya Fatima az-Zahra ya bint Muhammad يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك Allahumma ajjal waliyyika al-faraj. O Allah, hasten in the return and the end of the occultation of Imam of our time. Ya Allah, honor all of the ill, all those who requested dua with shifa and full recovery. Ya Allah, made the life of this dunya and akhirah to be on the path of the Prophet and his family. Ya Allah, make all Muslim countries, especially those who are the countries that the followers of Ahlul Bayt, the Shia of Ahlul Bayt are suffering, make them to be the place of peace and make them to be the place of safety for all the believers and all the mu'mineen. Ya Allah, by the honor of the Prophet and his family, bless the soul of all marhumeen, all those who used to be with us, serve in the majlis of Ahlul Bayt, serve in the masajid. Honor their soul with forgiveness and mercy. Ya Allah, by the honor of the Prophet and his family, bring unity among all Muslims and help us to stay away from division. Ya Allah, by the honor of the Prophet and his family, give us the tawfiq to follow the path of Allah, to follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim, to recognize that Sirat al-Mustaqim is the path of Quran and Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the soul of our marhumeen, for the shifa of all of those who are sick and mareed, please recite Surah Fatiha with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.